Greetings ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to today's Reddit series video from the subreddit HFY, called The Asimov Part 1 of 8, written by Shogunsidon. "Don't lose that ship," Captain Lee said, a little louder than he needed to. "Captain, I couldn't lose them if I tried. That ship looks like it's venting 4 or 5 different kinds of gases," replied the pilot as she smoothly guided the Asimov behind the spluttering vessel. 200 years, thought Captain Lee as he tried to remain in his seat. 200 years mankind had been exploring the stars with the FTL drives, and they had finally come across the first alien ship any human had ever encountered. This was monumental, and the crew was wound like a steel coil in anticipation of meeting aliens for the first time. Now, if they could only get these aliens to stop and talk. It was not that much of a surprise that it was the Asimov that came across the ship. She was built for long missions and acted as a combination of aid, rescue, transport, and protection vessel for the outermost colonies. The protection part was somewhat speculative, as no one had ever encountered anything in space to threaten the Earth Space Alliance or its colonists, but the contract with the ECA required the Asimov to carry some big guns, just in case. The ship was actually owned by SpaceX Industries. Well, they had to follow the certain ESA rules. They were not technically under the control of the military arm of the ESA, which suited the captain and its crew just fine. While many of the crew, including the captain, had gone through the ESA training and ranks, they preferred the freedom of being a privateer. It meant that they could do their jobs without the stifling bureaucracy. They were at the edge of the space where the alien ship suddenly dropped out of hyperspace, not more than 10,000 clicks from them. This was an astronomical hole-in-one, caught everyone off guard. His well-trained crew recovered quickly, however, and they closed within a few clicks while hailing the ship. Instead of answering, however, it just took off at a subliminal speeds. Captain Lee had ordered his pilot, Lieutenant Pearson, to follow this respectable distance. He didn't want to unknowingly start a galactic war by giving a hostile intentions. "Captain, I don't know if they're getting our messages or not, but they are not responding to anything. I've tried every channel I could think of, both audio and visual. I even tried to send them a mathematical symbols. Nothing," said his comm operator, Rohit Singh. "All right, stay on it. Let's hope they answer and don't suddenly turn around and launch photon torpedoes at us," the captain said. "Photon torpedoes?" one of the crew asked. "Nothing," Captain said. "Old joke. Bogey is dead in the water, Captain. They have stopped moving around and are now just coasting along their lost trajectory. I'm not getting any engine readings anymore. I think that they are out of gas." Eve reported. The Canadian-born helmsman was in charge of navigation, and she seemed to live for reviewing and analyzing as much data as she could. When they met, he knew within 5 minutes her knowledge of astrophysics, gravitational dynamics, and a host of other topics that he had only a faint clue about far outstripped his own, and he did not think he was a dumb man by any measure. Lindsay had been a prodigy, earning several doctorates by the time she was 16, but regulations forbid her from crewing a ship until she was 21st birthday, even on a private ship. However, Captain Lee could not find any regulations against using her as a civilian consultant, and so she had been a guest on his ship each time it was out of dock, and the last 2 years until she became of age. In addition, she was a talented hacker and programmer, and had made several ingenious updates to the Asimov systems while in Earth dock. He felt fortunate to have surrounded by such talented crew. "Okay, let's move up slowly. Get us within 1 click, Lieutenant, and keep above the plane," the captain ordered. "Sir, our guns?" Commander Mathis interjected. Captain Lee smiled a bit, detecting a bit of hopefulness in the giant man. He couldn't blame him. Being the charge of weapons that he never had a chance to use except in drills must have been frustrating for someone like Mathis, who took so much pride in the ship's weapon systems. Mathis was the son of the farmer in the West Texas and the most unlikely candidate for the ESA. Like the captain, though, he was determined to see space and used his interest in weapons and arms to find place for himself in the stars. They had met shortly after entering basic training, and their careers and friendship had been inseparable since. Bring the point guns to bear in case they do launch something. Hopefully we can knock down anything they can throw at us. Ready the main guns, but don't take a hostile posture yet, replied the captain. The commander executed the order, suppressing as much glee as he could. He didn't necessarily want to fire on the alien ship, but he also wouldn't mind finding out what the 50mm explosive shells could do against an alien hull. Looking at the ship, he suspected there would be no need for the main railguns unless there was some shielding they was not aware of. Mathis shook his head and wondered why anyone would go into space with such a derelict. Mathis would not have gotten on that ship on Earth, never mind in a vacuum of space. It looked like it was cobbled together out of spare parts. Exposed joints were everywhere, from what he could tell. "Mr. Singh, please ask our new friends if they need assistance," Captain said. "Already done, sir." No response. Eve interrupted. "Sir, comms or not, if we are going to meet them, we're going to have to go over there right now. I'm reading that they are venting atmosphere. At least they breathe oxygen like we do. They are. The ship seems ready to fall apart." It seemed like the mission was turning into the first contact into a rescue scenario. Things were changing fast. They had sent a message to command when they first encountered the ship half an hour ago, but had heard nothing. Captain Lee decided command was probably not going to object to the Asimov trying to save the lives of the aliens. "Okay, we're going in. Commander, get a boarding team ready and meet me at the main bay. Bring Dr. Chan with you. Lieutenant Doc on that ship against anything that looks like an airlock. Mr. Singh, I will need you with me. Everyone else, you know your job, and you're the best crew in the ESA. I don't need to waste my breath," the captain stated with a calm precision. Pearson cocked an eyebrow. "Captain, is it wise for you to go over there? What if they're hostile?" Captain Lee smiled as he left the bridge crew. "I'd rather go down in history as the first human to be shot by an alien than as a captain who sat in his chair during first contact." Pearson rolled her eyes at the bravado and expertly docked the Asimov against the alien ship after matching its Coulson speed. Only a light vibration gave away the fact that she had maneuvered the 600-foot-long, 400,000-ton ship to rest. On the last light, the flashing lights of the Claxtons reminded First Hetic that the ship was in serious trouble. On top of that, the alien ship was right above them now, and they were drifting, powerless. Not that it would have helped if they had power. The alien ship seemed to follow them effortlessly at subluminal speeds, and with the hyperdrive out, the last light had no chance of escaping. He rubbed his fur on his face anxiously, trying to decide what to do when Second Lieutenant barked quickly. "Sir, we've lost containment. We are losing atmosphere. This is very alarming." Second Lieutenant always had the gift of stating the obvious, though First Hetic had gave him order based on the protocol of containment field failure. "Second, route all power to Bay 2 and circulate as much atmosphere as you can there and divert the containment field. Once we're all inside, drop power to the rest of the ship. Maybe the alien ship will lose interest if they think the last light is dead." The crew member suddenly squealed. "Sir, we have contact. They are on our hull. They are going to board, I think. They keep sending us messages, but our translators do not know the language. Do we respond?" First Hetic suddenly felt a pain in his haunches as his whiskers began quivering. In an instant, he steeled himself. The crew were his responsibility, and he would do whatever he could to save them. "No, we play dead and hope for the best." He opened the shipwide comm. "This is First Hetic. Everyone evacuate to Bay 2 immediately." The patter of small feet could barely be heard over the chaos, so the crew began to make their way down. The last light was an older cargo ship. She had seen good days, but they were long ago. First Hetic had worked hard to purchase the freighter and sadly looked around to be 200-foot-long vessel and began to fall apart as the containment fields began to fail. He scurried to his quarters, stopping to pick up his sidearm before joining the crew. Malner did not allow other species to carry weapons, but he had a pulse gun hidden carefully. It was only one, however, and he did not have much hope that it would help them. Still, the Rothner had to bear its claws in protecting its young, not matter the odds. "What happened?" asked Mathis. The ship had suddenly gone silent and dark seconds after Asimov's boarding party had come through the airlock. Captain Lee shifted his short rifle uncomfortably. He was in combat proficient, but it was not his specialty. The guns were a precaution, fitted into the special rounds that, in theory, should not penetrate the metal that covered the critical systems or pipes. The last thing you wanted to do was start a fire or create an explosion on a spaceship. However, he had no idea what kind of metal the ship was made of. The point was made somewhat moot by the HUD showing that there was very little atmosphere remaining in the ship. Suddenly, the 6-man boarding crew felt their bodies lose contact with the floor as the gravity also failed. They were well trained for this, and each collectively themselves quickly. Lee engaged the electromagnetics on his armor and was surprised to feel the satisfying click of his boots against the floor. He adjusted the power setting until he achieved a somewhat normal pull against the floor. Whatever they used was at least Paris, he thought. The crew followed his lead, and soon they were sweeping down the switch corridors. Whatever they are, they're small, Mathis complained, as the crew ducked their heads as they made their way through the ship. Maybe there are space snakes or something, Warner said over the comm. It would be difficult to imagine snakes operating controls we see here, Dr. Chan replied. Well, they would have arms, of course, Warner responded. Physiologically, I don't think the doctor began before he was interrupted. Gentlemen, the captain said, let's save the debate for later. Mr. Singh, can you decipher any of the markings we're seeing here? Singh looked at the signs on the control panel that they had come across. Despite speaking 12 languages fluently and being possible in another half a dozen, he could make no sense of the symbols. Captain, Neve commented, I have no energy readings on the ship except in one area. Looks like it might be a cargo or landing bay. You're headed right towards it, maybe one level down from where you are. Roger that. Sounds like the best bet. Mathis, Warner, on point. Zoo with me. Mr. Singh, Doctor, please stay with the rear and do your best not to get killed, the captain said as they made their way down the stairs. The crew huddled behind the makeshift barriers in Bay 2. Most of them were trembling except for the engineer Nimon, who wore her usual scowl. Her 2 incisors were bared as if clinging onto the bay door seemed to get louder. First it took hope that she could control herself. If ship contained any manlin, they would feast on her bones if she were to be foolish enough to try and attack them like that. Sharp as the teeth were, they were no match for the fangs of the manlid. His paw gripped the pulse gun as the 8 members of his crew huddled behind him. He was not even sure what he was going to do with the gun. It had limited power, and if it were the Malnid, he might take down 1 or 2, but then his crew would surely be lost. Second Lytton said the enemy hails were completely foreign, though, unless the Malnid had taken over another species they had not heard about. His thoughts were interrupted by the groaning sounds of the door opening slowly. In his evacuation suit, he could feel his temperature rising and began to pant more heavily to cool himself. As he peered into the dim emergency lighting, he could see the hallway through the now-open door. An helmeted head quickly appeared and disappeared a few times in the doorway. "Is it Malnid?" Nimon said. "No," Hettick whispered. "That is not Malnid armor." "What are they waiting for?" asked Second Lytton. "You think they're waiting for us?" Mathis asked, resting against the wall. "That's a good guess. Do they really think that we don't know that they're behind those crates, though?" Captain Lee asked. "Did you get a good look, Mathis?" "No, sir, just shadows. I don't know if they're trying to bait us or they just aren't that smart. We could just flashbang them, rush the position. They aren't that big from the looks of the ship, and there can't be too many. This looks like a cargo ship, probably a small crew," Warner suggested. Captain Lee looked at Warner through his helmet. "Well, that sounds pretty unfriendly, don't you think?" Warner shifted nervously. "If it's a cargo ship," the captain continued, "then they aren't soldiers. Probably just some average Joe aliens trying to make a living. Hate to wreck their day going in with guns blazing." The crew looked at the captain in silence for a few minutes. "Captain, everything all right?" Pearson asked. "You haven't moved in a while." "I'm thinking. I think slowly," the captain responded, then pushed himself to his feet. "What are you doing?" the doctor asked. "I got an idea," said the captain, as he entered the doorway and turned to external speaker. He managed to get out "Greetings, we come," before he was hit with a blue splash of energy. The crew chittered quietly as the alien was lit up by a pulse of the first Hittick's gun. They had killed one of the aliens that had attacked their ship. Even Nimon was less of a scowl on her face, As they flashed subsided through their joy, turned back to fear as the giant figure remained standing. "How did it survive?" was what Second Lieutenant asked. "What is it?" "What the hell was that?" Mathis asked, putting the captain back into the hallway. "Please tell me that was only part of one of your ideas." "Captain, are you injured?" the doctor asked. "What's going on down there?" calmed Pearson. "They shot the captain," replied Warner. "Well, you got your wish. What is your status?" Pearson asked. "Hang on a second, everyone," the captain interrupted. Neve, if you're recording this, I'm going to need you to delete the part where I got shot from the records." "Can I do that?" Neve asked. "Probably not." "Okay, I thought maybe they might have been in the same page in the first contact," the captain replied. He checked his HUD and then wiggled around in his suit. Nothing. "Nothing? They shot you," said Zoo. You should have sent us out first." Captain Lee looked over the security officer. She might have had a point. He'd thought Mathis was the weapons expert, but Zoo was the actual ground combat veteran. Having sparred with her, she suspected that she had even been able to avoid getting shot at all. Yeah, but whatever it is, it's seriously underpowered. The flash was pretty intense, but it just felt like a wet bag of sand, the captain said. "Captain, you should not dismiss it. The weapon may target your nervous system or operate in another manner instead of doing tissue damage," the doctor warned. "Well then, Doc, it's a stupid weapon if it takes this long to do anything. But I take your point. They may be defending themselves, but no reason to risk it in case they got something better back there. Warner, Mathis, flashbangs, then sweep left. Zoo and I will take right. Get over these crates fast as you can. Hopefully they understand the concept of surrender at least. The area isn't that big. Can't be more than a dozen of them back there, and likely a few, if any, are trained soldiers," the captain offered. Mathis removed his flashbang with his suit quickly. "Mathis," said the captain, "don't have too much fun." Mathis grinned through his visor as his giant hand held the flashbangs. End of chapter. And that, my friends, concludes this dose of science fiction fun. I hope that you enjoyed. And if you did, please don't forget to support the author from the link down below. But if you want to support this channel, there are links as well down below for you to help with. But the easiest way would be to share this video. And if you are so inclined, subscribe as well. I will see you all in the next episode, and I hope that you all have a fantastic time until then. Cheers.